They say when the Library of Alexandria burned, the world lost half of its knowledge. Think about that for a moment. Half of everything humanity had learned up until that point, wiped from existence. Imagine walking through those towering marble halls. Scrolls stacked floor to ceiling, some containing ideas centuries ahead of their time. Imagine scientists debating the stars, while ancient poets penned verses about love, gods, and human nature. The library wasn't just a building, it was a universe, a living organism fueled by curiosity. And then one day, it was gone. But what was truly inside the great Library of Alexandria? What kind of knowledge did it hold that had the power to alter the course of history? And was the story of its destruction really as simple as a fire? Let's rewind. Alexandria was founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC, but it was under his general Ptolemy I that the dream of a library was born. Ptolemy didn't just want a library, he wanted the library. The one place in the world where every known piece of human thought could live, under his rule, and that of his successors. The library blossomed into the center of learning for the ancient world. Picture it. Scholars from Greece, Persia, Egypt, India, and beyond all gathered under one roof. There were astronomers charting the heavens, historians rewriting the story of civilizations, philosophers dissecting existence itself. It was said that the library held between 40,000 and 500,000 scrolls. That's not just every scroll was copied by hand. Think about the labor, the dedication, the belief that knowledge was worth preserving before the printing press, before hard drives, before the internet. And the scrolls weren't just written by scholars, they were collected from everywhere. Ships docking in Alexandria were forced to surrender any books or documents they carried. The library would copy them, and oftentimes, keep the originals. It was intellectual monopoly disguised as cultural stewardship. If knowledge is power, the Library of Alexandria was the most powerful institution on earth. But what exactly did it contain? That's where the legend begins to blur. Some say it held the works of Euclid, the father of geometry, who may have taught within its walls. Archimedes, who discovered the principles of buoyancy. Eratosthenes, who calculated the circumference of the earth using shadows and sticks. And Hypatia, the brilliant philosopher, mathematician, and astronomer who would become one of the last symbols of the library's intellectual legacy. Yet for all its glory, the library was vulnerable. Its greatest strength, its concentration of knowledge, was also its greatest weakness. Fires don't discriminate. Wars don't stop to save scrolls. Politics has no patience for ideas it can't control. Whether it was Caesar's accidental destruction during war, a Christian purge of pagan knowledge, or the decline of Egypt itself, the library didn't fall in a date, was eroded by time, fire, and fear. But what mattered more than the walls was the spirit that lived inside. The idea that knowledge should be gathered, preserved, and shared, not hidden or hoarded. That idea is what made the Library of Alexandria the greatest to ever exist. And that idea didn't vanish when the scrolls turned to ash. It survived every great fire that tried to snuff it out. What we lost was huge, but what we still have might be far more powerful. Asterisk. The real treasure of the Library of Alexandria wasn't just the scrolls, it was the minds that gathered there. This wasn't simply a storage house for ancient manuscripts. It was the beating heart of discovery, innovation, and philosophical exploration. Scholars didn't just come to read, they came to create. And what they created laid the foundation for much of our modern understanding of the world. Take Euclid, for example. If you've ever been taught geometry, you've walked the intellectual paths he paved. Euclid's Elements, a compilation of mathematical principles, became the most influential textbook in mathematics history, studied for nearly 2,000 years. And where did he teach? In Alexandria. Then, there's Archimedes, engineer, scientist, and all-around genius. He discovered the law of buoyancy while stepping into a bath, shouting Eureka, as he realized how to calculate the density of objects. Though he lived primarily in Syracuse, his works were studied and preserved by librarians and scholars at Alexandria. He was the chief librarian, the man who first measured the circumference of the earth with astonishing accuracy. He did it using nothing more than shadows and simple geometry. He even created one of the first maps of the known world. This place was a magnet for brilliance. But it wasn't just the ancient Greeks. The library drew scholars from Babylon, Persia, India, and Africa. It wasn't just a Greek library in many ways. It was the world's first global university. And then there was Hypatia, a philosopher and teacher of mathematics. She was respected in a male-dominated world of learning. She symbolized the intellectual freedom the library stood for. Tragically, her death murdered by a mob during religious conflict marks not just the end of her life, but the symbolic end of Alexandria's legacy of tolerance and learning. But here's where the library becomes almost mythic. This wasn't just a place to store or teach knowledge. It was a place to produce knowledge. Some historians believe the first scholars of Alexandria may have experimented with early forms of scientific methods, collecting, analyzing, and questioning the world around them. Others say that manuscripts preserved here may have contained early theories about atoms, evolution, and machines way ahead of their time. But Ptolemy, in their ambition, tried to collect all the world's knowledge, and in doing so, they monopolized it. They seized books, copied them, and cataloged them meticulously. Some say the library even had maps of lands unknown to the Greeks, or treatises on Egyptian medicine that have been lost forever. Imagine what could have been discovered if the library had survived another 500 years. Imagine what we could have learned if those scrolls had remained intact through the Middle Ages. If knowledge is power, the library was the ultimate battery, and when it failed, the world went dark. And yet, the library's end wasn't a cinematic moment of fire and smoke, it was gradual. It didn't fall in a single night. It fell through neglect, political upheaval, and the slow erosion of curiosity itself. By the time the Roman Empire collapsed, the great halls of Alexandria were probably already dust-covered and quiet, its scrolls either stolen, scattered, or swallowed by time. But what if some of those scrolls still exist today, buried or hidden, waiting to be rediscovered? What if the Library of Alexandria was never fully lost? Let's dive deeper into the mysteries of what might have been inside the library. Because here's the truth, nobody knows for sure. None of its scrolls survived. No catalog remains. All we have are fragments, references, and haunting questions. And sometimes, the silence of history is louder than the facts. One of the most intriguing theories is that the library held early versions of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, collected from across the Greek-speaking world. But it wasn't just Greek literature. The Ptolemies spread their reach wide. They sent agents to Persia, India, and Ethiopia. It's said that the library may have contained texts written in Sanskrit, hieroglyphics, Hebrew, and languages we've yet to decode. Could it have held ancient medical texts from the Egyptians? Perhaps scrolls detailing techniques lost to time, methods of surgery, herbal treatments, or mummification secrets no modern doctor could replicate. There's a possibility that the library contained formulas and machinery designs that predated the Industrial Revolution by centuries. For instance, Heron of Alexandria, a brilliant engineer, built a primitive steam engine called the Eolipile. What if his work was only the beginning? What if those scrolls revealed more inventions long before humanity was ready for them? Then there's the claim that the library held records of civilizations we've never heard of. Ancient historians like Manetho, for example, wrote detailed histories of Egypt that are lost today. Did his work sit on a shelf in Alexandria? Could the library have contained stories of Atlantosaur, something far more real but equally forgotten? Because that's the thing. We mourn not just what was lost, but also what could have been. What if the library hadn't burned? What if those ideas had spread? What would our world look like today? Would the Renaissance have started 500 years earlier? Would the concept of evolution have taken root before Darwin? Would spaceflight have been possible in the Middle Ages? These questions haunt historians, scientists, and even sci-fi writers. There's a reason the Library of Alexandria appears in novels, movies, and games. It's a symbol of unrealized potential, a monument to what happens when we let fear, conflict, and neglect snuff out knowledge. We often imagine its destruction as a singular tragedy, a fire that devoured everything. But the sad truth is much more human. The library didn't fall all at once. It died slowly, with each forgotten scroll, each scholar silenced, each war that ignored history in its hunger for territory. And yet, there's hope. Some scholars believe that many scrolls might have survived, smuggled out, copied, or hidden in private collections or other libraries that sprang up in its shadow. The Library of Pergamon, for instance, rose in competition with Alexandria. The scholars who fled could have carried secrets with them. Which brings us to a haunting thought. What if some of the library's knowledge still exists, scattered and disguised, waiting to be rediscovered? The Library of Alexandria is gone, but its ghost is still with us. Not in charred remains or buried scrolls, but in the very fact that we continue to ask questions about it. The library didn't just store knowledge, it inspired it, and that inspiration is what has survived. But let's bring the story up to the present. In 2002, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina opened its doors, a bold attempt to resurrect the vision of the ancient library. It stands not far from where the original once stood. The structure is stunning, a massive, sunlit disc rising from the ground like a second sunrise. The exterior is engraved with scripts from all over the world, symbolizing unity in knowledge. Inside, it holds millions of books and digital archives from all around the globe. But perhaps its greatest achievement isn't its size, it's its spirit. The Bibliotheca isn't just a museum or a memorial. It's an active institution, a hub for global cooperation, learning, and cultural exchange. It's what the Library of Alexandria might have become if it had lived to see the digital age. It's proof that while buildings can be destroyed, ideas can be rebuilt. So let's ask a question. What would the original library think of us now? If those ancient scholars could see our world where knowledge is literally at our fingertips, would they be proud or horrified? We're living in the age the library dreamed of, a world where information is accessible, stored in clouds instead of papyrus, shared in seconds instead of centuries. Yet we also live in an age of misinformation, polarization, and digital echo chambers. We have more knowledge than Alexandria ever imagined, and yet, sometimes, we act like we know less. Maybe that's the lesson the library leaves behind. It's not enough to collect knowledge. You have to protect it, question it, share it, and apply it wisely. The destruction of the library wasn't just a fire, it was the result of people who feared ideas. People who chose emotion over reason, who valued power over truth. Sound familiar? Perhaps the story of Alexandria isn't a tragedy meant to be mourned, it's a call to action. A reminder that knowledge is fragile, no matter what form it takes. Papyrus scrolls burned in flames. But today, data can vanish with a deletion, a server crash, a censorship law. But here's the beauty of it. We get to choose. We can either let the metaphorical fires burn, or we can build something like the Library of Alexandria again, not with stone and scrolls, but with curiosity, compassion, and courage. So the next time you're watching a documentary, reading a Wikipedia article, or listening to a podcast, pause for a second. You're taking part in a legacy that began over 2,000 years ago. You're walking in the shadow of the library. You're proving that the fire didn't win. The Library of Alexandria may be lost, but perhaps not forever. Maybe it's not a place, it's a promise. A promise that ideas matter, that truth survives, and that no matter how many times knowledge is burned, it will always rise again as long as someone cares enough to remember it. Now it's your turn. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Share this video, leave a comment with what you think was lost or what you believe could still be found, and subscribe for more journeys into the mysteries of our past. Let's keep the legacy alive together.